The June 2nd, 2025 legislative session of the Anne Arundel County Council is called to order. Please ensure all phones and electronic devices are set to silent. Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ms. Rodvian.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let us take a moment to pause and reflect. As we begin our work today, may we do so with open minds, clear purpose, and a commitment to the common good. May we listen with respect, speak with integrity, and act with fairness. Let reason guide our decisions and compassion shape our actions. Though we may come from many backgrounds, may our shared dedication to service unite us. Let this time be marked by thoughtful deliberation and a spirit of cooperation. Thank you. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please read the ethics statement.
The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The chair of the Ethics Commission has asked that those who wish to testify in any form review the general information on lobbying sheet located on the Ethics website under Forms and Publications. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, please contact the Ethics Commission at 410-222-4412.
We will now open before we begin our discussions and public hearings, I would like to remind everyone in attendance, whether testifying or as a member of the audience, that we must maintain decorum at all times within these chambers. Please understand that individual conversations in the audience are very disruptive to the proceedings, and I would kindly ask you to step out of the chambers if a side discussion is necessary. We will now open our invitation to the audience. This is an opportunity to speak briefly on any subject not included in the printed agenda. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, we received one piece which was shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others are signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts using our online testimony tool. Ms. Jigna Patel, and if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak, please come up to the table and state your name, address, and topic before making your remarks. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. And again, this is for to speak on items not included in the printed agenda. Ms. Patel.
Hi, my name is Jigna Patel. I live in the Sun Valley neighborhood of Glen Burnie. I'm here to talk about Nixon property development and workforce housing. I want to say that I know I've been the face that you've been seeing and hearing the last few months, but the things that I'm saying aren't just my concerns, they're concerns of my entire community. And I think we showed our concerns when we had the pre-submittal meeting. We had almost 100 people show up. When do you ever have 100 people show up for anything, right? Those concerns were voiced then. The concerns of my entire community were voiced again in the dozens of written comments that were submitted to the county. They were voiced again with the petition that we delivered to Planning and Zoning with over 130 signatures opposing the development of workforce housing on the Nixon property. And the countless emails Mr. Volke, Planning and Zoning, probably Ms. Dempsey, Mr. Pittman have gotten over the last few months. I feel like the county is using my neighborhood as the guinea pig for the workforce housing. It's like an experiment. They're gonna see how it goes on Nixon property, right? Because I think we're one of the first of this kind of development, and that's not the right thing. So my question tonight is like, what threshold of outcry from our neighborhood do we need to reach for this county to take this seriously? To take it seriously that that piece of property is not appropriate for that high density housing? And I don't know, do we need to have the 100 people that showed up for the in-person meeting show up here every 2 weeks? Do we need to make daily phone calls? Do we need to send daily emails? Because it seems that this project is moving right along. We're in the sketch plan phase. The subdivision sign went up last week, and like, nobody is taking us seriously despite all of the outreach so far. So what's the threshold? Where do we got to get where we get taken seriously? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patel. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Kyle Nemhart, 7809. Good evening, Madam Chair, Councilman Volke.
Move that towards you.
Oh.
There you go.
Thank you, Councilman Volke, County Council. I'm here today to talk about that square peg that's trying to fit its way in that round hole. I'm here again to express my concern, just as my neighbor, Ms. Patel, about the Nixon property by Bluestone Developers on Hartwell Road, which involves 171 townhome units. My neighbors and I have used the county website to submit our comments and questions, as Ms. Patel has expressed earlier. And what we got was a bunch of copied and pasted answers to our concerns and comments. And all of those had one thing in common. They kept citing Article 18, Section 4-106, and Article 17-5 of the County Code. The way in which the developer responded to our comments and questions demonstrates the blatant exploitation of the Workforce Housing Act by the developer. The Cedar Point community is immediately adjacent to the property, and five homes have sold in the last 6 months in response to the notice about this Nixon property development. That is huge. Given the way the interest rates are today and people are willing to sell to move away from that, that's damaging to our community, especially those who want to stay and make that a home. So I think we need to revisit the Workforce Housing Act to safeguard against this well-intentioned law against developers who have no regard for the surrounding communities. If the developer truly cared about workforce housing, they'd choose an area that was directly accessible by public transportation and not tucked away in an area surrounded by cul-de-sacs. Direct access to public transportation would be a prudent addition to the law, ensuring that developments of this kind are situated along thoroughfares conducive to the density proposed at Spencer Glen. It's a start, but I'm sure there's more refinements that could be made as well. Again, myself and my fellow neighbors welcome new neighbors, but the new residencies that are proposed for the area should be consistent with the current zoning and character of their surrounding neighborhood. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Solomon Campbell. I live at 7775 Monahan Road in Glen Burnie. The main thing that I would like to know more than anything else about this whole situation is the company that submitted this information, who submitted this request, when they gave their pre-application, they gave the name as Warning the Nixon Properties. They posted the signs out for the Spencer Glen development that is coming out now. Now, the question I really have to ask is, since we gave the petitions and our concerns in regards to the Nixon properties, now that the developer has changed the name to the Glen Spencer properties development, do we need to go back and resubmit the petition of names that we had of over 131 people? Do we need to start all over again to let them know that the things that weren't taken care of in the first set of concerns has definitely not they haven't taken any consideration for that in the development property of the sketch plan that they've submitted? We're still at the point of talking that they want to put 171 townhouses in that area, which is really an overstep. We understand that there needs to be growth and development in the area. There needs to be houses. We need those in the area. But 171 is ridiculous. The traffic, the streets, the parking, it's just inadequate. We can't do it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, please.
Atticus Miracle, 604 Carlton Auto Lane, Apartment 25, Odenton, Maryland. As a resident of Anne Arundel County, a Christian, and a transgender man, I am attending my first council meeting because I care about this county. I'm not here tonight for any particular issue, but I want to be there for my neighbors. So I'm here to celebrate the start of Pride Month by action. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. That's it? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, all right. Thank you all. All right. So the invitation to audience is now closed. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda? Don't see anything. May I have a motion that the partial reading of any bill, resolution, amendment to a bill or resolution, or minutes constitutes the reading of the whole?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of the legislative session of May 19th, 2025, the closed session minutes of May 19th, 2025, and the budget presentation minutes of May 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 28th, 2025.
Minutes of the legislative session of May 19th. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:06 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Ms. Hummer and was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held in the County Council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland. The minutes of the closed session from May 19th, 2025. A closed meeting was held on May 19th, 2025 in accordance with Section 305B1 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss a personnel matter. Chair Hummer opened the meeting at 10:13 p.m. and was held in room 143 of the Arundel Center in Annapolis, Maryland. The minutes of May 20th's budget meeting. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 9:05 a.m. The meeting was held virtually. The minutes of the budget meeting on May 21st, 2025. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 7:07 p.m. It was opened with the invocation given by Mr. Volke and was followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting was held at Arundel High School in Gambrills, Maryland. The minutes of the budget meeting on May 22nd, 2025. The County Council meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 9:05 a.m. The meeting was held virtually. And the minutes of the budget meeting on May 28th. The meeting was called to order by Chair Hummer at 9:31 a.m. The meeting was held in the council chambers in Annapolis, Maryland.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the legislative session of May 19th, 2025, the closed session minutes of May 19th, 2025, and the budget presentation minutes of May 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 28th, 2025?
So moved. Allison Pickard.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes of the legislative session of May 19th, 2025, the closed session minutes of May 19th, 2025, and the budget presentation minutes of May 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 28th, 2025 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the bills to be introduced this evening.
Bill number 5525, an ordinance concerning the issuance, sale, and delivery of Anne Arundel County, Maryland general obligation bonds and bond anticipation notes. Bill number 5625, an ordinance concerning Anne Arundel County Consolidated Plan FY 2026 and FY through FY 2030. Bill number 5725, an ordinance concerning payment in lieu of taxes, Arundel Community Development Services, Inc. Bill number 5825, an ordinance concerning zoning requirements for conditional uses, home occupations.
Okay. All right. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the resolutions to be introduced this evening.
We do not have any resolutions to be introduced this evening.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 1425.
Resolution number 1425, resolution approving appointment of members to the Police Accountability Board.
Okay. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. Resolution 1425 confirms the reappointment of Jeanette Ortiz, a resident of Councilmanic District 5, Daniel Watkins, a resident of Councilmanic District 6, and Sean Ashworth, a resident of Councilmanic District 3, to 3-year terms on the Police Accountability Board. It also appoints Brian Conrad, who is a resident of District 3, to the Police Accountability Board for a 3-year term. All of these members meet the eligibility requirements in the county code. I also have Lori Blair Klossmeyer, our deputy county attorney here, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. We will now open the public hearing on resolution number 1425. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on resolution number 1425? Okay. Seeing no movement, the public hearing on resolution number 1425 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Resolution Number 1425.
Resolution number 1425, resolution approving appointment of members to the Police Accountability Board.
Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution Number 1425.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey is absent. Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Resolution 1425 has been adopted.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill Number 4725.
Bill number 4725, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Resilience Authority Director, personnel, classification and pay plans, classified service and exempt service, public ethics, financial disclosure.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Lori Blair-Klossmeyer, our Deputy County Attorney, Ann Badowski, our Personnel Officer, Jacqueline Atkinson, our Assistant Personnel Officer, and Sarah Heffernan, our Senior Class and Compensation Officer. Bill 4725 adopts the classification and pay plans for the classified and exempt services for Anne Arundel County for the next fiscal year. There is one amendment that we will discuss at the appropriate time, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the council? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill Number 4725. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill Number 4725? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill Number 4725 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill Number 4725.
Bill number 4725, an ordinance concerning boards, commissions, and similar bodies, Resilience Authority Director, personnel, classification and pay plans, classified service and exempt service, public ethics, financial disclosure.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read Amendment Number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment makes certain employees of the Office of Central Services eligible for standby pay.
Okay, Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. So yes, that's exactly what this does. It's adding in the Office of Central Services employees as eligible for standby pay. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Ms. Fiedler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Was this an oversight or was this an afterthought?
Ann Badowski, Personnel Officer. It was an oversight. There was a request that didn't come directly to me when we were making the amendment to this section of the code.
Okay, thank you.
And just for the record, could you give a brief explanation of what standby pay includes, what that involves?
We have, currently the code provides for certain employees, specifically roads maintenance supervisor for DPW to be allowed standby pay for certain situations that happen, emergencies and those kinds of things over the weekend, or those kinds of activities that require them to be on call, still at home, but available to report within an hour. And so this would be like positions in other departments like Central Services, Rec and Parks, and OIT.
Okay. All right. So any further questions or comments? Okay. May I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Oh, I think I was supposed to, well, no, I did that right. Any further discussion? Okay. Ms. Pickard? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Amendment Number 1.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey is still absent. Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 absent. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Okay. Bill Number 4725 as amended will be heard on June 16th, 2025. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill Number 4925.
Bill number 4925, an ordinance concerning county executive compensation.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Ann Badowski, our Personnel Officer, and Lori Blair-Klossmeyer, our Deputy County Attorney. I'm not sure if she's in the audience yet or not. She is. Okay. Beverly Swaim Staley is here as well. She is the chair of our Personnel Board. So Bill 4925, I'm sure you are aware, raises the compensation for the position of county executive at the start of the next term. This compensation has not been raised since 2017, so by the time it's raised, it will have been, 9 years since it was last raised. And the legislation implementing that, the current salary was last passed in 2014, so that's been 11 years. Anne Arundel County is currently the lowest jurisdiction by a significant amount of the large counties in the state of Maryland when it comes to executive compensation. And I want to be clear that, when we talk about compensation for elected officials, we want to be sure that we're setting the level the pay at a level that it will not disincentivize qualified people from seeking to serve in elected office. And we believe that the salary should be set at a level that allows someone to live and work and raise a family in Anne Arundel County. And so we believe that this level of $180,000 with $3,000 increases over the course each year over the course of the term is appropriate. I will note that since the salary has not been adjusted in 9 years, inflation is up 30%. I checked that just a little while ago on this Bureau of Labor Statistics website. And so this bill is not even bringing the salary up to where it would be had it kept pace with inflation and other costs. So we're happy to answer any questions. I know the Personnel Board Chair can answer questions too if you would like her to.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the council? All right, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 4925. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 4925? Seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 4925 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 4925.
Bill number 4925, an ordinance concerning county executive compensation.
Okay, any further discussion? Ms. Rodbian.
Thank you. So I just wanted to comment. I actually struggled a little bit with this bill, and I'm going to support it in the end. But I just want to note for folks that may not know, it is a 24/7 job. The county executive can get called in. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas Day, if there's a water main break because of an ice storm, the county executive is on the phone with someone trying to provide resolution. So, for that intensity of work and the broad responsibilities, I think that this is an appropriate salary. And so I just wanted to make that comment. That's all I've got.
Okay. Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too struggled with this legislation, but I also know that not only is it a full-time job, but unlike the county council roles, you cannot have outside employment when you are the county executive. So the caliber of experience and abilities that's required oftentimes means someone has to leave a career. And I would agree with the sentiments from my colleague that this is an appropriate time.
Mr. Volke.
In the words of Councilman Dillon, who sat in my seat a while back, 2002 to 2010, he once said this when it came to compensation of county employees: if you pay peanuts, you're going to get monkeys, right? And that's the problem with what we're paying right now in terms of the county executive, is that no offense to anybody in that position or who's had that position, but ultimately you've got to pay the going rate, and the rate that we're paying is not sufficient for people of the skill and expertise. So even though I'm fiscally conservative up here all the time, always trying to cut, look for savings, everything like that, ultimately we've got to say we want somebody who's qualified to be running our county, and moving the salary up to this level is what's going to allow us to do that.
All right, any further comments? All right, Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 4925.
Resolution number 4925, an ordinance concerning county executive compensation.
All right. Please call the roll.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volke.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 4925 has passed.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 2425 as amended.
Bill number 2425, an ordinance concerning zoning regional commercial complexes.
Mr. Smith?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe we've come to the end of the road on this bill. This is the regional commercial complex. For those that don't know, that title is synonymous with the Arundel Mills Mall complex. And this effort was to adjust some of the requirements within that zoning. Specifically, it's only one in the county. Regional commercial complex was designated back in 1998, and it applies specifically just to that area. And this was to allow some more flexibility in that area where they have unused space so that the mall and/or the operator of the casino can take advantage of some of the additional features that can be added over there to consistently keep the mall filled with patrons because those equate to tax dollars. And so it allows us to maintain the level of expenditures that we do have on our county budget. But at this point, I think we've reached a natural conclusion from the amendments in partnership with the county executive, the operators over there, as well as my office. I think we've reached a compromise from what I understand. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Land Use, Lori Blair Klossmeyer, our Deputy County Attorney, and Lynn Miller, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Officer. We support the bill as amended, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Smith?
I will say one last thing. I met with GAN here recently online, and I had committed to them that they had some additional concerns at some point, or at least they brought up something that they wanted to further deep dive into, and I stated that I would do that in the future. And so we would still support this legislation and move forward, but whatever those concerns are that they may have, we will come back and sit down at a future table and discuss what it is to see how we can remediate that. But just wanted to put that on the record because I met with them and I heard them. So thank you.
All right. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 2425 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, then when signed up ahead of time, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 2425? We do have someone coming up. Please come up to the table and have a seat. When it's your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. Ms. Fox.
I'm Kate Fox. I live in Davidsonville. I'm chair of the Growth Effort Network Legislative Committee. We understand the purpose of this bill is to help Maryland Live develop housing on some unused parking areas near the casino, and we've been working with Mr. Smith on changes to the bill, and we expect a follow-on bill to adjust the density allowed. But pulling back to the 30,000-foot level, we've watched over the last year or so as bills were passed making it easier to build residential units on commercial properties with no commercial requirements and at higher densities in the BWI Fort Meade corridor, plus the zoning changes within that corridor and around BWI as part of comprehensive rezoning. We haven't taken a stand on this because we understood the density will be directed in near employment centers such as Fort Meade, BWI, NSA, and Arundel Mills. But there have only been limited plans to increase transit in that area. Even with the planned bill for transportation APF to replace the current roads APF, we are hearing that there are no plans to expand transit routes in the area beyond what's in the transit development plan. We have been told that residential development doesn't bring as many vehicle trips as commercial does, but still the added density will bring more and more cars to already congested roads with limited hope of relief to the traffic. At some point, we're going to have to say enough is enough. When will that happen? Some are saying that now. Why was this not anticipated 20 years ago when the federal BRAC process was initiated and we knew that Fort Meade would be expanding and thus the area around it would be more and more densely populated? You are the county leaders. Why aren't you asking these questions of the different agencies involved and making sure that there's funding in the budget to cover increased transit in these areas before passing bills to increase density in already densely developed and traffic congested areas? Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Hi. Atticus Miracle, 604 Carlton Auto Lane, apartment 25, Odenton, Maryland. And I want to speak to a example of that my neighbor just mentioned. I live in Odenton, and I was going to try and commute to work, and there is not a very particularly good way to commute to the National Business Parkway area, and therefore I very much agree with my neighbor that we should be thinking about transit when we're thinking about residential. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Okay. The public hearing on Bill number 2425 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 2425 as amended.
Bill number 2425, an ordinance concerning zoning regional commercial complexes.
Okay, any further questions? All right. Nothing. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 2425 as amended.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Radvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill number 2425 as amended has passed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 3225 as amended.
Bill number 3225, an ordinance concerning finance, taxation, and budget, special community benefit districts, shore erosion control districts, and waterways improvement districts, administrative charge, penalties for noncompliance, Maryland Homeowners Association Act and Open Meetings Act compliance.
Okay. Ms. Rodvian?
Thank you. So this bill, I think the folks that are in the room that are either at the table or in the audience are familiar with it, but just to be very brief, it adds some additional requirements for special community benefit districts, soil erosion control districts, and waterway improvement districts, particularly provisions of the Open Meetings Act, open records provisions from the Homeowners Act, when there will be some amendments related to that this evening. It also, as written, increases the fees that would at least come close to covering the county's current cost of administering the SCBD program countywide. And I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Administration?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Kelly Kenny, our supervising county attorney, Chris Trumbauer, our budget officer, and Billy Penley, our controller. As we stated before, we support the provision of this bill that allows an adjustment on the administrative fees that are charged to allow the county to recoup the cost of administering these districts. We are still concerned about the other provisions that place a burden on volunteers who are volunteering in their communities, and we don't want to dissuade people from doing that. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Trumbauer. I believe he might have had a couple additional comments.
Thank you. Chris Trumbauer, Budget Officer. Based on the spirited conversation from 2 weeks ago, I thought it might be helpful to do just a little bit of clarification on SCBDs. As you know, the Budget Office has a role in administering them, and they are included in the budget every year. So first, let me just acknowledge there's about 84 special districts in the county. Some communities may have an SCBD, a waterway improvement district, and a soil and erosion control district, right? So they may have one, or they may have two, or they may have all three. These are wonderful communities all across the county, and they're staffed by volunteers, and these are wonderful volunteers, and they do good work, right? So SCBDs are not homeowners associations. SCBDs are simply geographical designations of areas that have been legislatively approved to collect essentially local taxes to pay for community amenities. Okay, that's what SCBDs are. So I don't want to conflate HOAs with SCBDs. Now, you all approve, or the county council approves, the formation of new SCBDs. You approve the changing of the bylaws of existing SCBDs. That's all done in the public. It's done in these meetings, and it's very specific. The county administers the collection of the funds, and for that, we charge a very, I think, reasonable and modest fee of 5%. That is capped at $2,000. So no district and no SCBD is going to pay more than $2,000 in a total fee, right? Now, that leads in amongst the SCBDs themselves a pretty big variation. We have several SCBDs in the county that collect over $1 million of revenue. They're paying $2,000 of administrative charge to the county. That's about 0.1% of that revenue, okay? Now, if you're a community that collects $40,000 of revenue, you're also paying that cap, $2,000. So you're paying the full cap that's there. Anything below that, then you're just paying 5%, which is a lesser amount than $2,000 aggregate, okay? The other thing to keep in mind is that in general, the amenities that the SCBDs are paying for are non-public, right? So your general county taxpayer that doesn't live in the community may not be able to take advantage of those amenities, right? And that's why the communities are paying for them. They're taxing themselves. They're using the county as a collection vehicle to get those local taxes. They're reinvesting it in the community, right? All a good process, all making good things happen. But I wanted to make sure the council understood the difference between the SCBD and an HOA and how the county collects that money. The county side of it is the Office of Budget, the Office of Finance, the Office of Law, and the Office of the Auditor all have staff time devoted to the administration of this collection and disbursement of funds, right? So that's what is happening. We're charging the administrative fee to cover some portion of the costs. The community is getting the benefit of the county collecting their local dues, essentially, right? Okay, so all good. I have a list, if anyone's interested, of all of the districts and how much they are paying and how much they're raising in revenue, and you can see it varies from $10,000 or $20,000 to $1.7 million is the top one, and that's available to the council if you want. So with that, I will stop talking and allow you to get back to your business.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Mr. Volke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Trumbauer, thank you for that. And we have in our information what you referenced, that list. I did want to ask you one question. So from an equality standpoint, obviously we're treating all of these SCBDs the same in the sense that we're charging this administrative fee capped at 5%, right? So that's equal is how we're treating. But I think what some people might say is that equitable, right? Is that fair is the question. So what I want to ask you is this. Do you have any sense on the amount of time that the Office of Budget is spending on some of these larger SCBDs versus the smaller ones? Because if I had to venture a guess, I would think that many of these SCBDs that are collecting 7 figures or close to it probably have their own administrative staff. I know some of them have lawyers, accountants, things like that, who are doing a lot of that work, which then is providing a quality product to the Office of Budget, which may not require as much work on the back end. On the flip side, I don't want to cast aspersions on smaller SCBDs, but it's possible that they require a little more oversight and handholding from the Office of Budget to make sure all of their things are in correctly. And then you've got the folks, the SCBDs that are in the middle, who may be some variation of that. So from an equity standpoint, to make sure that we're not sort of looking and saying equality is wrong, equity is right, I want to make sure that we're equitably judging it both from the amount of money, but also from the lens of time that the Office of Budget is spending. Do you have any sense on that?
Thank you. Chris Trumbauer, Budget Officer. So, council member, nothing you said is inaccurate, right? For a change. Yeah, okay, right. Yeah. Now, I want everyone to take note of this. So, we'll have plenty of fun with that quote later, I'm sure. So, as I expounded on 2 weeks ago, there's really no way to capture a one-size-fits-all in an equitable thing, because you're right. Some of the larger districts, very sophisticated, they probably have attorneys on staff or accountants, and they package everything together, and it's all smooth sailing, right? Now, the flip side of that is they are trafficking in over $1 million of funds, so they're paying a very small percentage of that. So proportionally, it may be more than equitable for them. But if you're comparing level of effort, I'm sure you could find an example of a larger district that is super easy and a smaller district that's having challenges that takes a lot of staff time to get over the hurdle, right? I guarantee you that there are examples of that, and I would defer to my colleague, the controller, who probably has a whole nother perspective from Office of Finance. But right now, the metric that is used for the administrative charge is based on the revenue collected, 5% of the revenue collected. Is there other ways you could do it? Absolutely. You could do it on the number of parcels. You could do a tiered rate, based on a number of things. You could do a flat fee. Each of those will have pros and cons if you're trying to look at an equity lens, because as I said, there's no way to make sure that you can have an equitable situation, because everyone's definition of that is going to be a little bit different. So I can tell you that from the budget perspective. I don't know if Billy has anything to add from the finance side.
Good evening, Billy Penley, Office of Finance Controller. A former role I've had with the county was in the budget office, and one of my duties, as probably about 10 years, was the special taxing district coordinator. It's hard to really pinpoint the amount of time and fees. Like Chris said, like you said, some of the bigger districts, they're a fine old machine. They run smoothly. The same folks have been doing it year after year. Smaller districts or other districts where there's turnover, there's more handholding we have to do with them. From my perspective now in the Office of Finance, it's pretty straightforward. We get the rates that you approve and pass, and once a district is set up, it's just a matter of changing that one rate, and then it ripples down to all the properties in the district. So we bill them, we collect them, and we post them to the general ledger. Then we work with the districts that receive disbursements, ensuring that they are in good standing, their certificate of insurance is in, all the proper protocols before we can make disbursements to them. So in the Office of Finance, it's pretty straightforward. The only time, that's probably something new out of the norm is when there's been a new district is formed and we have to, for all the properties in that, we have to sign that charge code to it if there's been a change there. Special taxing districts are a beauty to the county because they extend the services to the residents. Some communities don't have public roads, and their districts provide for snow plowing and repairing. Some don't have garbage pickup. The special taxing district provides for that pickup there.
Thank you. Any other comments right now? Okay, we will now open the public hearing on Bill number 3225 as amended. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received 33 pieces which have been shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. We will now call on individuals who signed up ahead of the meeting. When I call your name, please come up to the table and have a seat. When it is your turn, state your name and address for the record. Remarks will be limited to 2 minutes. Please listen for the buzzer and respect the 2-minute time limit as others signed up to speak. If you have more than 2 minutes to share, I'm going to ask you to submit your additional thoughts as early as tomorrow using our online testimony tool. So I will call up the first 6 individuals: Andrew Snowden, Stuart Jones, Bill Davidson, David Openshaw, Alan McDonald, and Pam Foster. And sir, you can go ahead.
My name is Andrew Snowden. I live at 43 Lawrence Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. I am writing or speaking here today to express my opposition to Bill 3225. I'm a resident of Bay Ridge, a member of the Bay Ridge Civic Association, and a federal government attorney with over 20 years of investigating fraud in government programs. For the past 15 years, I've served as counsel to 2 inspectors general whose statutory mandate is to detect and prevent waste, fraud, and misconduct in their respective agencies. Based on my experience, it is highly unlikely that Bill 3225, through its public meeting provision, will detect and prevent fraud and malfeasance in the administration of various special tax districts throughout the county. Notably, this conclusion is consistent with the testimony of Teresa Sutherland, a former Anne Arundel County auditor. Individuals and organizations intent on committing fraud rarely, and by rarely I mean never, discuss their malfeasance in a public forum. Rather, it is the vigilance of friends, colleagues, and neighbors who usually bring it to light. In addition to being ineffectual, Bill 3225 is also legally problematic because it directly conflicts with Maryland state law. The Maryland Open Meetings Act applies to only, quote, public bodies, and the Open Meeting Compliance Board has held that homeowners associations, and by extension civic associations such as the BRCA, are not public bodies. I'd be happy to cite the opinion if necessary. Bill 3225 seeks to impose provisions of the Maryland Open Meetings Act on entities that are not subject to the act itself. Not only is this legally impermissible, it would have the effect of making Anne Arundel the only county in Maryland, to my knowledge, where homeowners and civic associations are subject to such provisions. Finally, I was surprised to read in a
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Stuart Jones of the Bay Ridge Civic Association, its president here on behalf of my community and those 90-some others in the county that operate with special tax districts. At last month's hearing, there was broad agreement that it's appropriate to reevaluate the county's administrative fee. With over 40 years of financial services experience, I can say that the fees for comparable services, once in the 5% range, have declined dramatically to between 0.5% and 1% thanks to major advances in financial technology. Unfortunately, the county's current processes haven't kept pace. For example, payments are processed manually, one by one. Communities are still required to submit hard copy payment requests by mail, no batching, no digital processing. This bill does nothing to address those inefficiencies, which could significantly reduce the administrative costs. I reviewed last month's testimony, written and video. A supermajority of residents and stakeholders voiced clear opposition. The recurring question was, what problem are we solving? We've heard this bill may be a response to a single case of financial misuse, but this bill wouldn't have prevented that. That issue stemmed from a lack of oversight, not from a lack of open meetings. As Andrew mentioned, the county auditor, Teresa Sutherland, testified bad actors don't announce their intentions in public forums. You've also heard from legal experts who disagree with the county's interpretation of the Open Meetings Act. Under Maryland law, civic associations are not public bodies. Finally, this bill would place unrealistic burdens on volunteers, parents, retirees, many with demanding day jobs, potentially discouraging community service altogether. Vote no. No, because the bill doesn't solve any systemic problem. No, because it conflicts with Maryland law. No, because it imposes unreasonable burdens on volunteers. Regarding the fees, please address them and county process improvements on their own merits, separately and thoughtfully. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Bill Davidson, 14 Bancroft Avenue, past BRCA president, current board member, and 40-year active volunteer. As to the administrative fee, any fee, of course, should be equitable. But in making its current calculation, the county is fully discounting the value of the administrative functions that are performed by its 90-some special taxing districts, administrative functions that the county would have to perform were it not for those districts. And the county's fiscal note is discounting that value of that service all the way down to zero. Surely it is human nature that we lack full understanding of what's being behind things that go well. Some things just seem to take care of themselves, and we don't fully appreciate them. The Joni Mitchell lyric comes to mind, you don't know what you got till it's gone. It's like that in local government. Trash gets picked up, snow gets cleared, streets get maintained, traffic lights cycle. So many things that your constituents take for granted. But as council persons, you well understand that there is administration behind all of that. So you can also well understand that it's like that at the neighborhood level also. Now, I think that Anne Arundel County is incredibly fortunate to have so many special taxing districts. The special district concept is wonderful, though underappreciated. It's an administrative vehicle that enables just a few hundred homes to come together with common interests and get things done at the most local level possible. Everything from building a new playground to mowing grass. But there is administration there too, often involving citizens bringing their professional talents to bear. And this represents administrative costs that the county would bear if not for the operation of those self-administered special taxing districts. Moreover, the idea that special districts don't generate any benefits whatsoever of value to the overall county is just short-sighted. Perhaps it's precisely because its special taxing districts perform so well that this neighborhood level administration function, it goes unrecognized.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Pam Foster, 5194 Chesapeake Avenue, Shadyside, Maryland. I'm the Secretary of Cedarhurst Citizens Association, here to oppose Bill 3225 as written and amended for Cedarhurst on the Bay, which is both a special community benefit district and a shoreline erosion control district. Bill 3225 paints special tax district communities as secretive, unchecked, and a burden on the county, rather than recognizing the value of the hard work of community volunteers to maintain their properties and assets for their residents who are also county residents. The provisions meant to create transparency go too far, treating the general public as if they are stakeholders in the business of private communities and putting unnecessary burden on community volunteers, which will deter them from running for leadership positions in the future. The provisions to raise the administrative fees are excessive and unjustified. The claim is that there is a dire $159,000 budget shortfall. Dividing $159,000 by the number of households in the county in 2024 equates to 72 cents per household, hardly a burden worth mentioning or correcting. Furthermore, our repeated direct questions asking why the percentage of administrative fee increases for certain districts, particularly SECDs, and whether it is the county's response to the passing of Bill HB 1467 has gone unanswered. If the county provided the escalating percentages to include in this bill without providing an explanation of why they propose treating SECDs differently, they are not being transparent. Bill 3225 contains provisions that were not fully researched or vetted, so while well-intentioned, appears to cause more harm than good. Cedarhurst would like to see a work group comprised of special tax district stakeholders and county staff formed to study these issues and work together toward fair solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm David Openshaw, 10 Wainwright Avenue in the Bay Ridge community. I'm an active volunteer on several community association committees, and I was here to voice our opposition to this bill on May 19th because of the Open Meetings Act requirements. We must still oppose this bill, even with current proposed amendments, because it remains unclear which of the many requirements of the State Open Meetings and Homeowners Association Acts the bill would impose on community associations, and because the amendments leave these requirements on all community meetings, not to just meetings pertaining to special tax district matters. The current amendments are also ambiguous about the penalties, saying they will apply only to, quote, major issues of noncompliance, unquote. This toothsome part of the bill should be very specific, I think. We remain convinced that this legislation is unnecessary and will diminish the volunteerism that drives civic associations to thrive and get things done for their communities and for the county. And my unscripted footnote, Councilman Volke asked about the level of effort for the various tax districts, and we heard ambiguous non-answers from county staff. But we submit council should push harder on this question, because the special tax district legislation requires the county to track the time and cost spent separately for each district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McDonald.
Good evening. My name is Alan McDonald. I'm a 25-year resident at 66 River Drive, Bay Ridge, where I volunteered on the Bay Ridge Civic Association for 8 years, the final years as as president. My suggestion tonight is practical, common sense summarized in two sayings. First, the Hippocratic Oath instructs doctors, but equally applies to lawmakers, to first do no harm. Second, a comment made by President Jimmy Carter's Director of Office of Management and Budget in 1977, who said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Then he went on to say, that's the trouble with government, fixing things that aren't broken and not fixing things that are broken. While community organizations do not typically address issues that change the world, our nation, our state, or even our country, they address matters that often are the most important to them, their neighborhood, the place where they live, walk, socialize, where their kids play. It is their home. Community meetings give members the ability to be heard and to vote on measures that impact them. It is wholly inappropriate for people who are not impacted to disrupt, dominate, and divide community meetings. Why would an outsider even want to come to a meeting? To disrupt, to intimidate, to impede an orderly proceeding? This bill would subject community organizations to the Open Meetings Act, an act designed for public bodies, not private civic bodies. Opening meetings to members of the general public, including attorneys, press, and others, while posting minutes to the public. While the Open Meetings Act permits community organizations to remove a disruptive individual, how can a civic association enforce this? By forcibly removing the disruptor? By calling law enforcement? Either option will effectively end the meeting. The Open Meetings Act has an extraordinarily specific and limited instances where meetings can be held in closed session. These exceptions are so nuanced that the bill requires community officers to go through training on the Open Meetings Act by the Attorney General's office. Civic associations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Mary Wallace, Janet Luby, Claire Corcoran, John Walker, William Boyd, and Romeo Santos.
I reside at 119 Eastlake Drive, Annapolis, Maryland. I'm a Bay Ridge resident, and I am currently on the board of directors at the Bay Ridge Civic Association. I'm representing the community to respectfully ask that the council consider withdrawing Bill 3225. While our community supports accountability in the management of special tax districts, the bill unnecessarily duplicates existing laws and raises unresolved concerns, particularly around the county administrative fees, as well as the open meeting requirements. The first and third issues are already thoroughly addressed in Maryland and Anne Arundel County law. Current regulations require tax district boards to be incorporated, bonded, audited, and transparent in their budgeting. There are also existing enforcement mechanisms, such as increased audits, withholding of funds, and district dissolution. The major concern lies with the administrative fee adjustments. Apparently, the county has spent over $284,000 on tax district administration last year, $34,000 of which went to audits. These audits were presumably tied to the Oyster Harbor embezzlement case and should be covered by that community's bond, not redistributed across all the districts. This fee structure unfairly penalizes smaller districts. Moreover, as Bay Ridge Civic Association is preparing to assume management of its SCBD fund in 2026, did the county's administrative burden will decrease, and has the county considered this fact when reviewing the fee structure? Lastly, the bill seeks to apply the State Open Meeting Act to the civic associations, even though they are not public bodies under that law. This overreach.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
you're on.
Ready? Okay. Hi, my name is Janet Luby. I live at 4 Cushing Avenue, and I'm speaking against Bill 3225. But because Mr. Snowden kind of left off with a cliffhanger, in my opinion, I am going to finish his comments. I was surprised to read in a recent email from Councilmember Rodvian that the actual intent of the bill is to provide the accountability and transparency that community members deserve when their community association essentially collects a mandatory tax from its members. If that is its intent, this provision serves no purpose. Community members already have insight into community association decisions and deliberations based upon association bylaws. Rather, this appears to be an effort to legislatively interject into disagreements between a few individuals and their respective associations, imposing unnecessary and unwarranted admin burdens to over 80 homeowners and civic associations throughout the county in the process. So that was Mr. Snowden's finishing remarks. So you have heard from legal experts why Bill 3225 is itself illegal. And you've heard from the most experienced auditor in the county that nothing in this bill could have prevented the instance of non-transparency in one district and the instance of embezzlement in another that are claimed to be what motivates this bill, according to Ms. Rodvian. Now, I'm no expert in law or auditing, so I'll just speak to what I know, and that is what makes a community a place to love, and that is neighbors working directly with each other. People like to work together on imaginative projects of shared visions to make their lives and their children's lives more enjoyable. At the neighborhood level, committees form organically, or thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
It's already on. Oh, okay.
My name is Claire Corcoran, 105 Magnolia Lane, Hillsmere Shores. I serve as the president of Hillsmere Shores, one of the county's largest and well-run SCBDs. I attended the county council meeting on May 19th along with my VP and secretary. What we heard was an overwhelming opposition to the bill from the vast majority of the 50 individuals who testified in person. Additionally, we understand that there has been a great deal of opposition via email through online testimony as well. I would ask you to listen to your constituents. The newest amendments to this bill do nothing to address the overarching concerns regarding the county imposing government bureaucracy upon private, civic, nonprofit corporations, such as Hillsmere Shores. We take nothing away from the county. To the contrary, SCBDs, by virtue of maintaining and improving their neighborhoods through countless hours of volunteer-driven work, raise property values, thereby beefing up the county coffers. For example, my community just completed a multi-year coastal resiliency project along Duval Creek in the South River that was completely volunteer-driven at the cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars, with almost all the funding cobbled together from grants and partnerships shepherded through via our volunteers. The county did not do this, we did. We do lots more than the county, that a lot of things that the county has no interest in taking on for the benefit of either the environment or our quality of life. Do not try to fix what isn't broken. This is a democracy. Listen to the majority of voices you heard from. The record shows there is an overwhelming sentiment being expressed, and it is not in support of this bill or any iteration thereof. 3225 has all the hallmarks of a program designed to drive out volunteers, effectively killing the geese that are laying your golden eggs.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is John Walker, and I live at 1200 Chesapeake Drive, Churchton, Maryland, which is in the Franklin Manor community. I urge the council to vote against this bill. At the May meeting, there was talk that it was unfair for county residents to pay for services to a special few. In my opinion, that is misplaced logic. These special areas are responsible for maintaining land and environmental issues that affect the Chesapeake Bay. The Chesapeake Bay is a resource that benefits everyone in the county and in the state. I am a retired CPA for both the federal and the Maryland state government, and the intent of this bill seems to apply the cost accounting principles to these special districts. However, I do not see where this cost accounting approach applies to other areas within this budget. For example, maybe the county should change its policy of no late fees at the library. As me as a resident, am I paying higher taxes to a select few people who fail to return their library books? As a CPA, I question the math on how the $289,000 number was obtained and how the proposed bill may generate revenue over and above these direct costs as time goes by. This bill would increase the taxes of every resident in Franklin Manor by $18.71. This law was introduced to address the problem of a potential shortfall of $172,000. Not a lot of money. If the county needs to find additional money for its budget, I would suggest that they go back and look at the budget, which has $8.1 million in grants. This bill is flawed. It has onerous burden on only one section of its citizens. There is no clear guidance on the costs involved or if these SCBDs will be overpaying their fair shares in future years. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Boyd from 1430 Mildred Place in Edgewater. I urge the county council to not approve the proposed 3225 as now amended. Many community associations that many of these districts are administered by a dedicated group of volunteers. The new proposed administrative requirements will reduce our pool of volunteers due to those who will choose not to participate due to increased and very complicated required actions of community associations. The email requirements are unreasonable and open abuse for both ways. Much more should be said about the benefit these districts provide to our county. Each community that has formed a special tax district takes on projects in their district that would otherwise be considered to be accomplished by our county government. In my district, we pave and we plow our roads, We maintain shore erosion control and landscaping for our common areas. And we maintain our stormwater drains, to list a few of the many projects we voluntarily take on ourselves. Basing an annual increase in the maximum admin charge on the CPI increase would be an open-ended increasing spiral of greater increases. Basing the new starting number for the maximum admin charge at $10,000 also makes for a higher annual increase in that charge. If we decide to use this scheme, the starting number should be much lower. An admin charge should not be based on the tax amount. The admin charge should be a flat fee or based on the number of tax accounts. The admin charge for districts that do not manage their own funds should have a higher administrative charge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Santos.
Romeo Santos, 107 Sunset Drive, Annapolis, Maryland. I'm not going to repeat what so many people have so eloquently said, and I'll just kind of get to a whole separate matter, which is the fact that this is iteration of this bill the third time. Every single time it's receiving a massive amount of opposition. The United States is a constitutional republic where you all are elected to represent your constituents. If you're not hearing us, then you're missing the forest through the trees. Nobody wants this bill. It's unnecessary. Listen to your constituents. They're saying no, loud and clear. Vote no, pull the bill, leave it alone. Don't fix what isn't broken. There's only one recourse that constituents have. That is to unseat you should you not listen to us. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Aaron Yeager, Elizabeth Del Castillo, and Kyle Himhard. What now? Oh, okay. All right. And if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak on Bill number 3225, you may come up at this time.
Good evening, council members. My name is Aaron Yeager of 766 Cypress Road, Severna Park. I live in the Manhattan Beach SCBD. I'm here again tonight to support Bill 3225. The council has heard a lot of testimony opposing this bill and only a few voices in support. I think my own experiences in Manhattan Beach may help explain why. For example, at our community's general meeting on May 6th, a resident asked how much money had been spent on ongoing litigation and where those funds came from. The board declined to answer during the meeting and hasn't provided the information since. In the parking lot after that meeting, I witnessed the association's secretary drive his pickup truck alongside that same resident who was standing with his wife and asked questions to confirm his identity. Later that evening, the resident's wife received a direct Facebook message from a board member asking her family to leave the Manhattan Beach Facebook group, a group administered and moderated by the board. Shortly afterward, they were blocked from it. My wife and I too were blocked in November 2024. Even more recently, I testified before this council on May 19th. The next morning, I found a bag of dog waste on my driveway, the first time anything like that has happened since I bought the property in 2021. I take events like these, and there are others, to be clear messages. Stay quiet or face consequences. I believe there are many residents who support this bill but can't say so publicly. They know that any testimony or emails to the council become public record. I can speak freely because I'm already facing backlash, but most people stay silent to avoid it. I hope you'll pass Bill 3225. It's a step toward reminding SCBDs that at least a modicum of transparency and accountability must be tied to their receipt of public funds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Did those get handed out? Oh, really? Okay. Okay. My name's Elizabeth Del Castillo, and I've lived 27 years at 1300 Holly Road in Edgewater, Maryland. I'm a treasurer for South River Park, and I have 20 years budget work, career work, federal level for the National Park service and the mines, and also Maryland with DBM, elections, and Maryland Park Service. So when I look at this bill, no offense, there's a lot of things going on here. But the first one is on this handout I have, this is all the SBCDs, and most of them are on the water. And so this bill, if some old volunteer forgets to do something or doesn't respond to an email fast enough, that waterfront's jeopardized. And people are hungry for water, and I think that's something you need to consider. South River Park, we're a private nonprofit. We got our properties in the 1920s, way before SBCD program ever happened. So it is solely our property. I got a little nervous last time when the lawyer said, we'll just say all of them since we can't distinguish, but that's not a doable thing. As far as the actual SCBD law, the administrative charge, Section E, is what's going to get changed. And that's a critical piece of language. Because there's no cost recovery in the SCBD law. There is nothing that says we have to cover these costs. And so people can't say that's what you need to do because it's not in there. The 5% fee is skin in the game. That's all it is. The SCBD taxes are the extra taxes we pay to do the extra work of maintaining our assets because the county won't. And we're already doing that. So please don't overcharge us more. And believe me, there's plenty of public people walking on our private roads. I asked the budget department, how was the 279 computed? And they gave me this table of people. I'm like, no. What are your costs? This is people.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Atticus Miracle, 604 Carlton Auto Lane, apartment 25, Odenton, Maryland. I've heard from some of my neighbors that this bill is too broad. But some of the remaining questions I have with the bill are the problems it may have been trying to solve. What are the barriers to entry for the SCBD communities that this bill might be trying to prevent? I noticed that the open meetings provisions add interpreters and attorneys to the list. Are they currently blocked from the meetings based on the bylaws? That might be something to change. I know we've all had we've had situations where a person unfamiliar with the relationships walks into a room and it changes the conversation, or misunderstandings occur that may escalate to emotional arguments. Public involvement in these meetings doesn't really make sense to me because of that kind of dynamic. However, I personally disagree with some of my neighbors that sharing the costs is unreasonable for how the county administers the current budgets. However, I think walking back to the drawing board may be necessary because there are so many conflated issues in this bill currently. I also hear from my neighbor who just spoke about the insular nature of the communities and how people might be afraid to speak up. And so, since I'm not a member of the community, I want to foot stomp that opinion.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sharon Blugis. I live at 150 East Bay. I can't remember Bayview. I can't remember where I live. Anyway, I was here 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to make some comments further to what the gentleman said down there about being punished if you speak out. What you may not know is that I was sent a letter from the HISA attorney this past week stating that my testimony had made derogatory statements about the board and that had, quote, harmed the community's reputation and essentially threatened me with a peace order. So that is what we're dealing with some of these SBDDs, and this is why we're asking for help. And I really, sir, I feel you. Our board president incorrectly advised our community that this bill mandated in-person state training and stated this requirement was government overreach. As stated multiple times now, this mandated training is a 60-minute webinar required by at least one member of the board. It's hardly a burden, and it is indeed the minimum of what our community should expect from its board that handles hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the thing that stood out most from the president's comments last week was that recording our meeting, quote, was not mandated, so they weren't going to do it, even though this had been repeatedly requested. And this demonstrates our concern perfectly. If following the Open Meetings Act is not mandated, then we fear it won't be followed. We've been very pleased to see that the meeting agendas have been sent out for the past 3 months, but without a specific requirement to follow specific guidelines, old habits may return. And in fact, one of the board members stated at the November 2024 annual meeting that we, quote, don't normally do agendas. So it is again that I beseech the county council members for help in requiring SCBDs to follow the Maryland Open Meetings Act as amended to follow the HOA law. We desperately need this help, and I hope that the council will pass these amendments to the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leahy.
Hi, hello, Amy Leahy. I live in Severna Park, Maryland, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Greater Severna Park Council, which is an umbrella organization of community associations in the Severna Park area. So the board of the Greater Severna Park Council has voted to oppose Bill 3225 in its conceptual purpose of legislating SCBDs, SEC districts, and the Waterway Improvement Districts to comply with the following: imposing Open Meeting Act standards on all communities that have such a special taxing district. We feel this is a government overreach on communities' autonomy to govern themselves, and that since the county is simply acting as a tax collector and distributor, the onus is on the community to police itself. Many communities throughout Anne Arundel County have HOAs, improvement associations, and special taxing districts without problems. Bad apples in all fiduciary platforms will be and are dealt with through the legal system. That a council member has chosen to legislate and require that a member of the organization complete training before assuming their role is unrealistic and puts a strain on the community of volunteers. On a personal note, when I worked for Anne Arundel County many years ago in the budget office, I knew that not only is the county budget office involved in establishing the SCBD with the community, the law office is involved, the county council approves it legislatively, the finance office sets up collecting the money through individuals' tax bills, and the county auditor was involved in the audit of the community's finances each year. That seems like an awful lot of oversight. These steps currently certainly seem like enough oversight that mandating more government intervention is unnecessary. I would also like to mention again on a personal note the hundreds of communities throughout the county are volunteers, and I know this from my time in the county executive's office years ago, working with these communities. Their leadership changes constantly, and the county administration is lucky to get any notification of a change.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sengelub. I reside at 95 Brooks Road in Arnold, Maryland, part of District 5. Thank you, Ms. Fiedler. I currently volunteer and serve as the treasurer of the Timber Civic Association and have been treasurer since the fall of 2023. The Timbers is one of the smallest, if not the smallest, community benefits district in Maryland. We have 48 properties that we administer to, and we have a 1.8 acre recreation area, which is a playground, ball field that we have to mow, maintain liability insurance for, and essentially we get together every year and we do a community cleanup, and just full of volunteers, okay? The crux of my opposition, I think what you're going to do is you're going to kill the golden goose, because the remedy to this entire bill is to withdraw as a special community benefits district, and therefore the county will not be able to access any of the funds. We'll just become a totally voluntary organization, and we will collect our own revenue. Okay, so if you can imagine 90 of these special community benefits districts withdrawing that status, we can run ourselves. We don't need the county. It's very nice to have that 5%. It really is nice, because we don't have to go hat in hand every year and beg for donations to mow and to maintain liability insurance so that we can maintain a 1.8 acre recreation area and playground. The caveat that we have is that our very small community has a deed, And that in that deed, there is a caveat that said, should the Timber Civic Association dissolve, then that land will go back to the original grantors.
Got it. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak at this time? I think we have some more.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, and Council. Matt Minahan, 3651 First Avenue, Edgewater, Maryland, speaking on my own behalf tonight. I've heard some powerful testimony here tonight. The county is incredibly fortunate, as one person said, to have this feature. The question I want to raise is, what should the county be subsidizing? Yes, we subsidize transportation for the handicapped. When we should. We subsidize housing for those in need, and we should. And we subsidize health care for the elderly, and we should. This is not something for us to be subsidizing as a county. This is a community function. Listen, the county is stronger when the communities are strong. These communities are providing important functions for the county. But many of them suffer from weak governance. You've heard from two cases here tonight. Someone asked, what is the problem this bill is addressing? Well, community associations should be open. Meetings should be open. Members should know when those meetings are happening, and in too many cases, they don't. Agendas ought to be made public. Minutes ought to be made public, and in too many cases, they're not. Responses shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks when members write to board members. Conflicts are going to happen in all these associations, and not all of them are handled well, as you've heard from two people tonight. Our friends from Bay Ridge are reporting from probably one of the strongest and best organized and best managed community associations in the county. But most are not like that. Most aren't that strong, most aren't that big, most aren't that old, and most aren't that well managed and well organized. In the strongest communities like Bay Ridge, they don't have to worry about those kinds of things. And by the way, there's nothing in this bill that discredits what volunteers are doing. Be careful what we subsidize, please.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Jane Beard. I live at 5545 Harford Street in Churchton, Maryland. I'd like to challenge the presumption that this administration of the special tax districts needs to be revenue neutral on a cash basis. We keep forgetting how much of the work is being done by volunteers. And this is work that would be done when you look at non-special tax districts where the county is taking care of all of the bidding, the project discovery, what needs to be done, the negotiation about what needs to be done, all of that legwork that the county does and is paid for by county funds. We are doing that in our districts, and we are benefiting not just our communities, but we are, especially because so many of us are waterfront communities, we are improving the livability and tax basis of the entire county. The other thing I would like to say, we heard one person tonight suggest that there should be a committee of people from these districts who can help you discover what we should be doing. We've heard about two instances tonight of poor governance and somebody who thinks that applies across the board. I don't think we know that it applies across the board. I think, again, there is not enough information to vote this bill out. I think there needs to be a lot more discovery, including not just socializing it with two people who are unhappy about their communities, but talk to more people who are in various types of communities and discover what the problems really are, and acknowledge the enormous volunteer labor and the cost that the cost benefit it provides the community and the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Maria Hartman. I'm at 795 Blenheim Court in Manhattan Beach in Severna Park, Maryland. I don't really want to be up here speaking again. I did speak last time. However, I did want to say that on the OMAs, I used to cover in the newspapers when I was a student the municipal meetings, and we never covered neighborhood meetings. So it just seems quite inappropriate and unnecessary because we're not looking from top down. We're really looking at neighbors who are working together through different things and have, in my community where I've lived for 22 years, have worked it out. Actually, we haven't had any difficulties that I understand in that time that really draw people. I don't know, I'm going to talk too much if I go into details of things, but I went to my first meeting in 22 years because we didn't have anything that I needed to go to a meeting about before then, and I went in May, and it was happy and calm, and everybody seemed to comport themselves professionally in my experiences I had through all those municipal meetings that I had gone to earlier. So I think it's a wonderful community. I think they handle themselves excellently. I'm really pleased with the new person I met who's in charge of it that just started but wasn't here last week, I think on vacation. They said that before all of this was going on, so I just got introduced to that too. So I had to speak because I need to speak in support of my own community. So I don't think it needs any, I don't think it's appropriate to put the municipal meetings from above on the local meetings. People have spoken to that already, and I also think that people have spoken very well about the fiscal things too. So I'm not such a good speaker. I write a little bit better. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. The public hearing on Bill number 3225 is now closed. There are 7 amendments. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 6.
Amendment number 6. This technical amendment corrects an internal code reference.
Ms. Rodvian? Okay.
Here. Okay, amendment number 6 is really just correcting an incorrect reference, basically a typo. So I move the amendment and ask for my colleagues' support, and I hope I can get the admin's support as well. I move the amendment. Is there?
Do I have a second? I will second, if there's not one. Any discussion, administration?
We're comfortable with this amendment.
All right. Noted. Further discussion? Ms. Ravian, do you have? Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 6.
Ms. Pickard. Aye. Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 6 has been adopted.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 7.
Amendment number 7. This amendment specifies the violations of county and state law that may result in penalties or dissolution of a special community benefit district.
Ms. Rodvian?
Thank you. I just want to say before we go through all of these amendments, every single one was created in response to the concerns that have been raised through email testimony and at our last meeting on May 19th, and this is one of them. There has been an impression that the penalties, including something like dissolution, could be used for something, for example, not responding to an email in a timely manner. I wanted to just make it crystal clear that that was never the intent. To me, it would seem obvious that those things simply don't match, but apparently that wasn't obvious, and so I thought it would be completely fair to put that in writing to make it clear that this is for basically the most severe violations. And they're usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, the violations that are in this section usually last for a couple years before you even get to dissolution. And dissolution can only happen by an ordinance of this council. So I move the amendment.
Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion?
Can I ask a quick question about this? And I'm going to ask the question probably about a couple other amendments, but how is this different than the way either the code is currently written or this bill is currently written?
So as the bill is currently written, these the penalties that are listed with respect, the way it is written it could be, the interpretation that many folks have had that you could use the severe penalties available in this bill for, very small things like not publishing an agenda at least 24 hours before a meeting. And of course, in my mind, that was not ever the intent. So it makes it clear that these are for the most severe.
Madam Chair. And so how does the code currently address this situation of dissolution of an SCBD before this bill was even?
I'm going to turn to the Office of Law for help clarifying that.
Kelly Kenny, Supervising County Attorney. I believe the dissolution provision is new in this bill.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I wanted to make sure that I was correct that this indeed was new.
Yes.
So it's not currently an option. We have, for example, a very small number of SCBDs that have gone for years without filing financial statements or budgets. And at some point, it becomes absurd for the county have to continue to do the work for the SCBDs. So, to at least have this sort of possibility to say, look, you need to start filing your paperwork on an annual basis. Otherwise, we can go down this road. And so basically offers a stick in the carrot and stick model for the county to use to bring folks into compliance.
Thank you.
So, any other questions? All
Madam
right.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm looking at the code correctly, Ms. Kenny, 4-7-405 does provide for abolition of a district, and there is a mechanism that can happen, right? But I think that's the only provision that I can find in 4-7 in the subsection that deals with special community benefit districts that allows for the dissolution or well, I take that back. 47203 also has a dissolution provision for an SCBD. So that is there in the code already. But those are the two places that I can see it, unless you see somewhere else that I'm missing.
Right, and the first one you mentioned applies only to the waterway improvement.
Correct, that's right.
Right.
Because there's sort of each of the different types of special taxing districts has their own mechanisms under it. But for the SCBDs in particular, that would be through an ordinance, which would be us.
Right, under 47203.
Which is the only way to dissolve it right now. It's
Yes.
through the council, right? We create it, we dissolve it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to comment too. There was one person who testified that in their community, the original grant said that if the community association were ever dissolved, that property would go back to the grantor. And I just want to be clear that this bill does not give the county the authority to dissolve a community association. So this is not, this could not create the situation that person testified to. This would only dissolve the SCBD. A community association could continue to function. In fact, there are many community associations that are neither SCBDs nor HOAs and do a lot of the same things that SCBDs and HOAs do.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Mr. Volke actually spoke to what I was going to say. Okay. Should have turned off my light. Thank you.
All right. Administration?
As this is whether to dissolve a SCBD is a decision for the council, I believe that this amendment is a policy decision for the council.
Okay. All right. No further comments or questions? Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 7.
Ms. Pickard. Mr. Volke.
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler.
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Nay.
Mr. Smith.
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
2 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. Amendment number 7 has failed.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 8.
Amendment number 8. This amendment removes the requirement that community association officers respond to emails from community association members within 5 business days of receipt.
Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you. This was actually a constituent raised that oftentimes that council members do not respond to their emails in that time frame. So I thought they made a very good point and thus thought it would be appropriate to remove this provision. I move the amendment.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? All right. Administration?
We're comfortable with this amendment.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 8.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Radvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
2 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. Amendment number 8 has failed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 9.
Amendment number 9. This amendment allows a community association to provide a single email address that can be used by members of the community association to contact officers or board members of the association.
Ms. Rodvian?
So again, this was in response to concerns that constituents raised. A couple communities had reached out and said that they used a single email address for all officers and board members as a method of simplifying their operations. And to me, again, as someone said earlier, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And this basically allows that method to continue. So I move the amendment.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. Administration?
We're comfortable with this amendment.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 9.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
3 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. Amendment number 9 has failed.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 10.
Amendment number 10. This amendment modifies the applicability of the Maryland Open Meetings Act to community association meetings, including providing that community association meetings do not have to be open to the general public, but must be open to attorneys representing owners of property within the district.
Okay. Ms. Rodvian?
Thank you. So again, responding to feedback that I received from communities, this narrows the individuals who may attend with a property owner to their attorney. I should note, though, in a different amendment, it also includes an interpreter. That is not an obligation by an SCBD or a community association to provide an interpreter. It simply is to allow an interpreter. And to me, allowing attorneys are very frequently brought to meetings on behalf of the community associations. So to me, it seems completely fair that a property owner should also be able to have representation at a meeting. I move the amendment.
Do I have a second? Okay, I'll second it. Is there any discussion? Okay. Administration?
This is a policy decision for the council.
All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 10.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
2 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. Amendment number 10 has failed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 11.
Amendment number 11. This amendment clarifies requirements for community associations, meetings, and records.
All right. Ms. Rodvian?
Thank you. So rather than ask for compliance with the Open Meetings Act, this, while it is long, it basically mirrors the provisions of the Open Meetings Act and creates a sort of mini Open Meetings Act that would apply to SCBDs. And if you give me a moment, I can, I had created a summary of that I would like to just read instead of the 7 pages so folks can have an idea of what it is. Sorry, I've got about 25 tabs open here. Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay, so basically the requirements, I really think that these are very reasonable requirements when we're talking about you know, a district that is mandatory. Individuals do not have a choice of whether or not to participate in their SCBD. So in the same way that paying your property taxes is mandatory, and you expect to be able to participate fairly in your local county government, your SCBD fees are mandatory, and there should be some expectation, I think a very reasonable expectation, that residents would be able to participate in a meaningful way in their communities with regards to how funds are spent and the activities of the community. So here's a quick rundown of the requirements in this amendment. So first, there must be notice given for meetings. A website or a community bulletin board would be acceptable. An agenda should be shared or posted at least 24 hours in advance, and it still can be changed if needed. Property owners, their attorneys, and interpreters are permitted to attend meetings. The presiding officer may remove a disruptive attendee. There must be at least one opportunity per year for owners to comment on any matter relating to the district. Closed meetings are only allowed for specific purposes, such as negotiation of a contract for the SCBD or regarding legal matters. Minutes are required and should be shared as promptly as possible. However, this can be done very simply by making a recording of the meeting, and that can substitute for written minutes. Meetings may be held via video conferencing, and if they are, members participating remotely are allowed to vote, although they may have a deadline for submitting a vote. If it's a private vote that folks weren't voting or casting their vote sort of publicly, they might need to go and deliver a piece of paper with their vote to the association, within 24 hours or something like that. Community association records must be available for property owners or their agent to review. Personally identifiable information may be redacted from records before a property owner views community association records if such things are included. And then with respect to budgets, amendments to the budget must be made at a meeting with proper notice except in emergency situations. So that's sort of a rough overview of what's in that amendment, and I move the amendment.
Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Pickard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very lengthy amendment in addition to our code. I wanted to ask, when SCBDs are formed and are formed, they all have bylaws, I believe. This seems like a very cumbersome way to tackle some of the transparency that some SCBD or community members are looking for. Would it be possible to, if we wanted to still tackle some of the issues that exist, as the council, when SCBDs want to change their bylaws, they come before the council to do so. Would it be possible to require SCBDs in their bylaws to address the things that on their own and come up with their own rules and regulations about transparency rather than the code dictating for 90 different SCBDs how that should be done?
I'm going to turn this question over to the Office of Law since I think you asked a legal question.
Kelly Kenny, I think she was looking right at me when she asked that question. I mean, that could be done. It would be difficult to just codify that they need to have transparency in their bylaws. This kind of outlines what those items would be. And then short of reviewing everybody's bylaws to make sure that they comply with that, you may never know that they're doing that. So this was kind of one of the things we discussed during the last meeting, is outlining those provisions of the Open Meetings Act and the HOA Act that we wanted SCBDs to comply with. So now this seems to do that and outlines those provisions that we're looking for them to comply with. I think you may be able to pare it down and just say they have to put these things in their bylaws, but if you want to have some control over what the transparency is, I think you would have to outline those things like they are here or in some fashion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've heard some interesting testimony today from some folks who have maybe had some unpleasant experiences within their communities. I don't know that this bill alleviates that behavior from communities, unfortunately, which is unfortunate in today's society that we have unneighborly activity going on in some of our communities, but this just seems excessive to me, this amendment.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I would really just like to say the level of detail is just to create, a sense of certainty, so there's not ambiguity in what the different provisions mean. If, the provision simply said, provide notice, and you don't if you don't include any detail about what it means to provide notice could be stick a Post-it note on the back side of the clubhouse and hope that folks find it. And obviously, that would not be in good faith, but someone could claim that that is somehow posting notice, and so it gives the specificity of what is required. And that's why it's a little bit longer, but I still think it's overall very, very simple.
Ms. Fiedler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having one of the largest SCBDs in the county in District 5, but also having one of the SCBD communities that has had challenges that were discussed this evening, I understand the complexity of the issue trying to be solved, but I have also served on a community association, understanding that this bill is not exactly that. But I know the level of volunteer hours that are required to have a successful community moving forward on projects and such. If I were a volunteer on an SCBD and I saw this language and knew that there was no due process for me to challenge claims that my SCBD group violated any of these, I would never want that responsibility on my shoulders, and I just simply wouldn't volunteer. So that's the reason behind my vote this evening on this specific amendment.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would just like to remind my colleague that all of you voted down the amendment that would have taken away the severe penalties. And so now, as the bill is written, as the way you left it, the bill actually would allow for dissolution for someone not responding. And I'm going to be honest, I know what my colleagues are doing here. I'm a little insulted that no one told me ahead of time. I've worked on this subject matter for a very long time. So I'm going to proceed as if these amendments could still pass, because I've spent a significant amount of time working on this, and I feel like I deserve the respect of my colleagues to at least hear the ideas that I brought tonight. I spent significant time responding to the community, communities who had reached out to me and shared their specific concerns. I feel like I've addressed almost every single one of them. So that said, I can't remember. Did I move the amendment, Madam Secretary?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Administration.
This is up to the council. This is a policy decision for all of you.
Okay. All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 11.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
Mr. Volkey?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
2 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. Amendment number 11 has failed.
Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 12.
Amendment number 12. This amendment removes the administrative fee changes proposed in the bill.
Okay. Ms. Ledbetter.
Procedurally, I'm seeking advice. I no longer wish to introduce the amendment. Do I need to do anything? Just
withdraw the amendment.
do I need to say I withdraw, or okay? Yes. I'd like to withdraw amendment number 12.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I have a question, procedural question. So we did pass one amendment that was a technical amendment. So
we may go ahead and vote on the bill.
Okay. So
was that your question? I'm sorry.
That was my
Okay,
question.
great.
If we can go ahead and vote on the bill, or does this carry it over? So but if anyone has any further discussion, Ms. Rodvian.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank very much individuals who worked, spent extensive amount of time, particularly Lori Blair Klassmeyer, working through the details of this bill. I'd like to thank folks who provided feedback, and I hope that you at least respect that I made good faith attempts to address that feedback. I had other individuals reach out to me. I know that many folks tonight have said that, oh, their community runs just fine. But during the course of this event, either in private conversations or emails, I've had at least members of at least 10 different communities describe situations where things were being brushed under the rug, information was not being shared, meetings were not being posted in a timely manner. So the fact that this has been called a sort of a answer in search of or a bill in search of a problem, there actually is a problem, and I think we heard some of it tonight. No one should ever come to testify in a public meeting and find a bag of dog poop on their front step. That is completely unacceptable. I'd like to go over a couple other things too. SCBDs, folks have said over and over again that these are private organizations. Yes, the community associations are private organizations, but SCBDs are not. They are created by county code. They are authorized by this council. They're basically taxes. So in any other context, when would you allow your elected leaders to spend tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands or even millions of your dollars without even the basic provisions of accountability, such as provisions like the Open Meetings Act? I think folks deserve to have those kind of protections in their neighborhoods when they don't get to choose. Maryland Homeowners Association Act states that purchasers in HOA-governed communities have the right to review governing documents, including bylaws, prior to closing, and can rescind their contract within 5 days if they find the terms unacceptable. This protection does not exist for SCBDs. So very often a home purchaser may not even know that they are part of an SCBD community, much less have the opportunity to find out what the obligations are. And for that reason, I think it makes it even more important that we have transparency and accountability. For folks that have said, SCBDs, it's wonderful. If your SCBD is functioning and there are never concerns about safety or harassment, there have been in this county SCBDs who have called for police to attend their meetings because they were concerned violence would break out. And again, simple protections of accountability and transparency, I think are a very reasonable ask. We have also heard folks that say $159,000 is, something, the county should just be willing to eat that. Well, right now, as we are in the process of considering our county budget, we would love to find $159,000. We could fund additional special education teachers. We could fund repairing musical instruments for county students. And so to me, you can say $159,000 shortfall is not significant. I disagree. Somewhere in the conversation, it became the common argument that 3225 was intended to detect fraud. I think that's because there was a significant case of fraud in my district. This was never going to do that. That kind of thing would have to be addressed in court. So that was really never the intent here. I'd also like to point out that for the purposes of this particular bill, it's very easy for the officers to connect with each other. All you have to do, in fact, some of officers in different SCBDs are already connected with each other. In fact, I know that, there are several sort of unions, more than one. I know there's one down the Annapolis Neck, there's one along General's Highway, where different communities are already connected. For individuals who are not officers and not board members who have had experiences, they have virtually no way to find other people that have similar experiences. So the fact that we had folks speak out, to me, speaks volumes. There were folks that didn't know about this bill, heard about it, and then wrote to this council sharing their experiences. I'd also like to point out that 29 out of 83 of the SCBDs, that's 35%, were not in compliance with financial statements, according to the auditor's most recent appointment. We've had we've had a lot of folks say that, SCBDs are doing a wonderful benefit to the community by providing, by helping keep the Chesapeake Bay clean. I do think that's wonderful, but there are people all over the county. In fact, I will point continually to individuals who live in public housing and don't have their own cars are doing wonders for the environment by regularly walking, riding their bicycles, and taking public transportation, who are keeping our environment clean. So that is not a standard that we use. There are other HOAs and non-associations who do wonderful things with volunteers that don't have the benefit of having the taxes collected by the county for them. Our current system is actually out of compliance with the charter. According to our charter, I'm going to read the section of the charter here. This is from Article 7, Section 718. I'm going to read the pieces because if I read all 3 paragraphs, but if you want to see the whole thing, I'm happy to show it to you or send it to you. No general fund revenues or receipts as defined in subsection B of this section shall be dedicated to, expended for, or used to supplement appropriations from the special funds referred to in subsection A. And that subsection A is referring to the special community benefit districts. That means what the county is currently doing is out of compliance with its charter. We are allowing funds that are from the general fund because we are not covering our own costs with our program, in terms of the staff hours and expense managing SCBDs. And I really could go on, but I can read the room and see that there is, that's where we are. And I just want to say thank you to the people that came forward. You are very appreciated. I haven't decided where we're going to go next. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
I want to thank the sponsor for all the work that she put into this, and I fully appreciate the intent behind this and what we're trying to do. I'm a little, as someone who's been a volunteer on numerous organizations, including HOAs, for decades, I have been a bit surprised by some of the opposition to some basic things that you do for meetings, such as publish an agenda and take minutes and be able to have documents approved. I mean, that goes back to when I was in the PTA. That was normal things we did for PTA. My homeowners association does that. So, however, I do believe a lot of behaviors like that are hard to legislate. That really should be people working in good faith in their communities and being good neighbors to each other. So I don't think any of those things are onerous for people to have to follow, but I do understand that that's hard to legislate and to do. And I just would hope that people would be looking for the best governance they can do for their communities. And I always believe that transparency and openness is the best way to do that, so that there aren't questions about what's going on. I appreciate all that SBCDs and the other groups do. I think you provide valuable things for your communities, and I think there's a real need for them. But as someone who lives in an HOA and pays HOA dues every day, I can say that my HOA does the same things, but we pay a lot more and we don't get any help from the county on what we do. So we have to balance that out about what we're subsidizing and what we're not. To have on there. So I think there are some things that could still be looked at of this. I think it's clear that this is not the bill that people want. And perhaps there'll be a time in the future that we can get people together at the table and come up with something to tweak some things on here that would do that. To have that. But I do appreciate everyone coming. I especially appreciate people. There were many people who wrote in and spoke who were very, very thoughtful in what they put and really shared from their experience and gave some good suggestions. One thing that I heard again and again, and I'm going to call out this to our budget officer, Mr. Trumbauer, is that we heard from many people about that they wish that the county would do more training for SBCDs, for their treasurers or other people to do the documentation. So much like where we've had some training sessions for community associations, perhaps that's something the county could look into, is doing some specific things for SCBDs to help with some of the documentation. And maybe, because I know it's always hard to get volunteers for these things, maybe if they felt that there was some training and more support there up front, we'd have more people that would step up to do that. So, Ms. Ledbetter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to say a couple remarks that would have been attached to the amendment had I decided to move forward with it. I am personally not opposed to the idea of relooking at the way the county is charging these stakeholder groups for the effort that is being put into helping manage them and distribute the funds and all of the admin that goes with that. So my suggestion would be is that going forward, if this is something that administration or the county feels like is a step worth taking a second look at, that would be to invite the stakeholders to the table. And because it seems I heard a variety of different ideas over the past 2 meetings. Should it be by the amount of tax funds collected? Should it be by the number of parcels? Should it be by, is it fee for service? I'm not going to pretend to sit here and have the answers. I've never volunteered as part of one of these organizations. So that would be very disingenuous of me. But I do think there's an opportunity to bring voices to the table and to work together to find a solution. And when you do, I look forward to hearing about it, and maybe that'll be a new piece of legislation. So,
any other comments? So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on Bill number 3225 as amended.
Ms. Pickard?
Nay.
Mr. Volke?
Nay.
Ms. Fiedler?
Nay.
Ms. Rodbian?
Since most of the amendments that I think would have really improved the bill and made it better and more amenable to the different stakeholders involved did not pass, I would not want to support the bill in its current state. I vote nay.
Ms. Ledbetter?
nay.
Mr. Smith?
Nay.
And Ms. Hummer?
Nay.
0 in the affirmative, 7 in the negative. Bill number 3225 as amended has failed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 4825.
Bill number 4825, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development, zoning, tiny home community development.
Mr. Smith, this is your bill.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will try to be as brief as possible. This bill was submitted about a month ago, roughly to drive the conversation about tiny homes legislation within Anne Arundel County. Currently, you have the ability to build a small home in your communities now on a particular parcel. This incentivizes a development of them, basically a cluster development of them, as a product to be built. We have, over the last couple of years, been focused on housing as a answer to address some of the costs that have significantly increased over the years. And one of the solutions I have been sort of toying with over the last couple of years is smaller homes. And so by virtue of their size, the cost of them is less. And so having this conversation on whether or not we should have something like this in the county as a commodity that young people can purchase that are transitioning into the workforce, or older people who are looking to downsize. There are communities throughout the nation that exist and that looks like this. We're going to show you a quick presentation that has some slides that will show you kind of what we were thinking when we were putting this together. Doesn't mean that this is exactly what we're trying to build, but I do believe that it is a very attractive option for affordable housing that we should look at seriously here in Anne Arundel County. The bill does require a minimum of 5 of them to be created on a lot, but since you need 2 acres, it really does drive home the effort to build several of them in a 2-acre parcel, somewhere in the ballpark of like 35. I'm going to. I don't know if is that presenting already? Oh, okay. I'll keep narrating, I guess. The intent was never to be a end-all solution with this bill. 100% from the beginning, I've always believed that this was going to start the conversation and to work with the administration on, well, what can we do to modify it potentially, but simply to have the conversation because we've looked at various housing solutions over the last couple of years, and this is certainly one that I think can be value added to the county's inventory especially for that younger generation as they transition into the workforce and older folks. On top of that, I think the styles that exist today are with the integrated sort of sidewalks as well as amenities that would exist within the community. It makes it a very attractive sort of solution to answer some of the problems that we have. The reason I think it's important to see kind of an idea of what this could look like is because I think it will give you a visualization of what we're just simply trying to offer to Anne Arundel County. What you see on the screen right now is one particular community. Now, this is in Georgia. It's roughly 30 plus tiny homes that are in a range of 230 or 250 square feet to 650 square feet. But if you look at how they are integrated, and you can go to the next slide, you can see exactly how the integrated sidewalks, the community spaces, it's a very attractive community to live in. And this certainly could be an option for, as I mentioned before, younger folks. Go to the next slide. What drew me with this development specifically was the quality of the community, the amenities that existed within the community, but also the sort of decorum and how it was designed. Now, you can certainly put modular homes into this equation. This was not meant to be a RV, so no wheeled facilities or vehicles, because that's considered RV, would be included in this. These are homes that are wood framed, built on a slab, that are just built smaller than normal homes. And so if you go to the next slide, I've told everyone that I would 100% live in a community like this. Go ahead, next slide. Try to get through this. I told the Madam Chair that I would go through these in like 3 minutes, so I'm trying to keep to that 3 minutes because I don't want to be penalized. When
he offered the 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I just want to say that.
Yes. When you see the amenities here, next slide. I fell in love with this community. I have been in communication with this organization. And in fact, I'm trying to get them to come up here before the end of the month or before July, certainly, because we have amendments, but we're going to just talk about that when we get to it. But I really want him to talk about how he has been successful at creating this community for teachers and other young folks police officers who have just entered into the market. And there are some amenities, or not amenities, but some legislation that we're going to look at potentially to keep developers from buying them up and then renting them back out. But that is going to be sort of looked at from a conversation standpoint on how do we protect this for home buyers. We really want to drive the purchasing of these for first time home buyers or elder folks who can use these and start that generational wealth for the young folks. Next slide. Next slide. And as you can see, this was certainly a wood-framed facility, just like your normal houses are, townhomes that are built today. But because the size is so small, the material cost is going to be small. And that indirectly is going to impact the cost of the house. Next slide. I loved how they integrated the outdoor sort of spaces within each of the homes. Next slide. Where if you were going to eat out, if it was a lovely day, you can certainly take your guest or yourself outside between the deck up top and the one below. This was sort of integrated into each of these tiny homes. Next slide. And it made it really feel sort of like one. The inside is a normal space. The utilities and amenities that are in there. Next slide. Looks just as amazing as my house that I have today. Next slide. They designed these houses. Now, these could come in like loft form or one bedroom. But these typically, you could also do these on just one level for some of the elder folks who don't want to climb any stairs. Because the way the footprint is designed with that 2,500 square feet, it gives you flexibility where you can actually make this a one-level sort of entity. The impact on the school system would be low, obviously, because there aren't multiple bedrooms in this. You're not going to have a family of 4 living here. You should probably more than likely have maybe 1 or 2 adults. And in most cases, if they did have a child, in a few years, they would probably elevate out of here. And then this would open up for another younger couple. But we have spoken about the missing middle over the last couple of years, and we certainly have the higher end available for anyone that has resources. But for folks that are going into the home market, it really is a hard sort of environment to be in. Next slide. And because in this particular development, he added sort of the tall sort of features to it. It makes it, even though it's a small home, it doesn't feel small on the inside. Next slide. And next slide. Next slide. Next. I'm going through quickly to just give you an idea of what it looks like. Yep, keep going. Next. Right there. And this obviously can work for a person who's just going into the workforce. Next slide. I think that's the end. I thought it was important to put words or put a picture to words, because we talk about things all day from a legislative standpoint, but we really never show you all what the vision is. And so the intent behind this was show you, at least from a vision standpoint, what drove me to sort of drive this conversation so that we can start producing these types of units in Anne Arundel County. Now, I know there's going to be a whole sort of conversation about what that looks like from a legislative standpoint. And I'm open to have that conversation. I would love to have the partnership that we've had with planning and zoning and the administration with our comprehensive rezoning over the next couple of months, or certainly the next 30 days, to have a conversation about what this looks like, what is feasible. This is not complicated. Do we either want affordable housing or we don't? You could literally build these for less than $75,000 each, and I can show you the math on it. And they potentially could sell for something less than $200,000. That is affordable housing, and that is creating affordable housing for every single one that is built. And so you don't have to sort of, I don't even know if an MPDU would even be necessary for this, because every single one is underneath that threshold. That's why I thought this was important to have the conversation. It's very simple. We either want affordable housing and a variety of different options, or we don't. And this is certainly a tool that we can put in our tool belt to use where it makes sense in spaces here in Anne Arundel County. With that said, I will turn it over to the administration.
Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. With me at the table, I have Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Land Use, Lynn Miller, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Officer, Andrew McCara, our Deputy Director of Inspections and Permits, and Kelly Kenny from the Office of Law, our Supervising County Attorney. So before we get into a discussion, I just want to say something. And that's that one of the hallmarks of our administration when it comes to land use legislation has always been that, especially when it involves the entire county, that we do public engagement with stakeholders, which is why Plan 2040 had a citizen advisory committee. All the region plans that we have passed and have been working on had stakeholder advisory committees. It's why bills like the redevelopment bill that was passed back in the earlier part of this year had extensive stakeholder engagement from all perspectives while those bills were being developed and prior to being introduced. We think that stakeholder engagement from groups like GAN and ACT and MBIA and others to offer their input on the development of legislation prior to introduction has always ultimately led to better legislation. Those stakeholders are never shy to express their concern or feedback when that engagement is not done ahead of time. So we think that is critically important. I think we are concerned about the condensed timeline at this point that we're looking at with this bill, because there are several things that it needs in order to get to a successful place and actually achieve the goals that it intends to. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Evelyn if he has any other comments he wants to add, or I know there are questions that council members will have, and then we'll have some follow-up as well.
Yes, Jansen Evelyn, Deputy CAO. I think he summarized it succinctly, perfectly. There are a host of other points and concerns that we could raise, but I know that there will be the hope is there will be ongoing communication. But I do think that, as Mr. Hunt noted, there's a lot of work that we envision would have to be done, and so we hope that we have enough time frame to work through some of those issues.
Madam Chair, just quickly, and I definitely appreciate the conversation the admin and I had earlier today. Just for the record, I have been engaged with community stakeholders on this, whether that's some community associations, GAN, Housing Coalition, or ACT. I've met with several of them over the last few months about this particular alternative option to housing. So I'll just say that for the record. But I think what I'm going to ask tonight is, before we pass any amendments, if there was potentially offer a delay if the administration is still open to that, from what we discussed earlier, just to have that deeper conversation. At the end of the day, we get to the end of the road of this. If the consensus isn't there, that's great. But I certainly want to have the conversation about this option because I don't necessarily think it's a complicated one that can't be solved with a few amendments. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Rodbian?
Thank you. I'm maybe getting a little frustrated with the concept that a bill needs to be perfect and ready to pass upon introduction. I feel like that is literally what these meetings are for. That is literally why we take testimony from the public through online mechanism and at all of our meetings. I feel like that is the path to good legislation, and singling out individual stakeholder groups leaves so many folks out of the process. So I really am going to push back, and Councilman Smith, I'm going to support you tonight, and I would be happy to work with you with this bill as it's introduced and bring amendments to make it better. And I think we should go back to looking at our legislative process as the legislative process, that it's not all done outside of our public meetings.
All right. Are there any other comments before we move to public hearing? Okay. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 4825. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
Yes, Madam Chair. We received one piece which was shared with the council, added to the record, and posted to the website.
Okay. No one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 4825? Mr. Manahan, I think you know the drill.
I do, yes. Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Smith. We've had multiple long, detailed conversations on this bill. You've made yourself available. You've answered our questions, and we're grateful for that. And we've spent the time, and we hope the council spends the time, because we think that this is one of the answers to the extreme housing shortage we have in the county. And in particular, what this does is it adds housing at multiple price points, at a price point where we just don't have enough. There are some constraints on the bill. We've asked the councilman to consider disallowing tiny homes in the RLD district. And if you do allow them there, and in R1 and R2, they should be subject to special exception hearings. We've also think that they should be concentrated in the development policy areas from Plan 2040. That's where the employment centers are, it's where the transportation is, it's where the infrastructure is, and it's where the impervious surface already is. We also have a concern that some of these would be at the expense of forested areas, and we hope that however the bill turns out, it protects the forest coverage and the forested areas in the county. I want to again, though, say, just express our appreciation and enthusiastic support for this bill, which hopefully through its amendment process will improve over time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Minahan. There's seeing no more movement. The public hearing on Bill number 4825 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 4825.
Bill number 4825, an ordinance concerning subdivision and development zoning, tiny home community development.
So we have two amendments. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, if I may, I was going to, after the discussion with the admin, so that we can have a more, making all these minor edits, a comprehensive discussion, so that when we come back with the amendments, we don't have to re-edit everything. So my intent was to at least withdraw, certainly my amendment. Where was the, you didn't send one down, did you? Okay, I want to go ahead and withdraw amendment number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll withdraw ours as well. Okay. Just ask that you hold the bill.
All right. So, and you want to hold the bill?
And I was going to make a motion to hold the vote till 16 June for this bill.
Okay. Second. All right. So they've withdrawn both amendments. So, Madam Secretary, can you call the roll to hold Bill 4825?
Yes, Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold Bill 4825 until June 16th has passed.
Okay. And I just want to add, Mr. Smith, I really like the concept of tiny homes. I do think it's another tool in our toolbox. I do have a number of questions about how this would be, and so I'd look forward to talking with you more and working on that because, you know, if we do this, want to make it work and to have it, but I think it's an interesting concept, but let's work out the details.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
If I may, Madam Chair, I just want
Yes.
to add that the administration is fully supportive of the idea of tiny homes as well, and we want to make sure that it works as well.
okay. All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 5025.
Bill number 5025, an ordinance concerning zoning BRAC mixed-use development.
Mr. Smith, this is your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is another effort to, I don't want to say, I guess, right or wrong, or make some corrections to some historical changes that have occurred over the last 8 years. When I initially passed this bill back in 2015, I think it was somewhere in that ballpark, the intent was to help with the expansion of BRAC and create a policy area that was driving some development and work space centers around the county, specifically around Fort Meade. And in 2021 or somewhere around that ballpark, it was modified. And I think there was, when it was modified, it was sort of taking it to a circular sort of circumference of Fort Meade instead of specific areas. But it incidentally left out some provisions or some spaces in the county that were initially included in that. That being said, this was an effort to combine both of those intents back into one. So that all of those areas are still underneath the same sort of governance when it comes to policy. There has come to light, I guess there's one little quirk I think we need to work out. So there will be at the appropriate time to ask for one more delay on this one because I really want to keep planning and zoning happy. I think Ms. Miller is someone that you definitely want to keep and praise, and I just want her to know that I am trying, ma'am. I am trying. So this is an effort to always keep you smiling. And so that said, I'll pass it on to the administration.
Okay. Administration.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan Hunt for the administration. I have Jansen Evelyn, our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, Lynn Miller, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Officer, Kelly Kenny, our Supervising County Attorney. We support the bill. I do understand that Mr. Smith will be asking for a motion to hold because there's an issue that needs to be resolved, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Ms. Pickard? No? Okay. We will now open the public hearing on Bill number 5025. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
No one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on Bill number 5025? So, seeing no movement, the public hearing on Bill number 5025 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill number 5025.
Bill number 5025, an ordinance concerning zoning BRAC mixed-use development.
Okay, any further question? Okay, Mr. Smith?
Just motion to hold till the next county council meeting.
Second. Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll to hold Bill 5025.
Ms. Pickard.
Aye.
Mr. Volkey.
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler.
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian.
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion to hold Bill number 5025 until June 16th has passed.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Resolution number 1525.
Resolution number 1525, resolution amending portions of Titles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the Rules of Procedure of the County Council.
So this is after extensive work by county council members, and we've also had a work session on this about updating some our rules. I do have one amendment to put in, but we've gone over this extensively before. If anybody wants to bring up specific provisions, But the administration, you're not there. I'm assuming you're not going to weigh in on our rules because this is us. So any discussion from my colleagues? Nothing. All right. We will now open the public hearing on resolution number 1525. Madam Secretary, did we receive any testimony through the online testimony tool?
No, Madam Chair, we did not.
Okay, no one signed up ahead of time. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on resolution number 1525? Okay, seeing no movement, the public hearing on resolution number 1525 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution number 1525.
Resolution number 1525, resolution amending portions of titles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the Rules of Procedure of the County Council.
Okay, there is one amendment. Madam Secretary, please read amendment number 1.
Amendment number 1. This amendment clarifies that decorum will be maintained at any location where the council is holding a meeting or session and makes a technical correction.
Okay, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We do sometimes meet as a council outside of these chambers, for instance, when we have public budget hearings or things like that. And so this is just to carry over that the same rules of decorum regarding signage and other behavior would be maintained no matter where the council is meeting at those times. So do I have a motion? Oh, so I move to adopt this amendment.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on amendment number 1.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 has been adopted.
Okay, as a resolution can be amended and voted on the same night, we will proceed with the vote. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on resolution number 1525 as amended.
Ms. Pickard?
Aye.
Mr. Volkey?
Aye.
Ms. Fiedler?
Aye.
Ms. Rodvian?
Aye.
Ms. Ledbetter?
Aye.
Mr. Smith? And Ms. Hummer?
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Resolution number 1525 as amended has been adopted.
All right. Is there any other business any council member would like to bring before the county council at this time?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Madam Secretary, or Madam Administrative Officer, can you please add me as an aye vote on resolution 1425? Thank you.
Yes, noted. Thank you, Mr. Volkey.
Okay. All right. May I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. County Council is adjourned until Monday, June 9th at 10 a.m. when we will meet in the council chambers for FY26 budget amendments. Remember to check the county website for important information and updates on our meetings. Have a good evening.